The radio in Fallout works because it juxtaposes so brilliantly with the dire and bleak post-apocalyptic setting. It works because Fallout is inherently absurdist. It's what makes Fallout so brilliantly unique and unlike anything else we've seen in the video game industry. It's hard to find something that comes close to matching that feeling of walking across a nuclear wasteland, murdering feral ghouls, a race of radiation mutated post-humans who somehow survived a nuclear war, all while listening to some upbeat 1950s music. The ironic, dark humour mixed with the alternative history 50s setting. To quote Todd Howard, it just works. Starfield, by contrast, is a universe away from such absurdism. Now, that's not to say Starfield doesn't have its own realm of silliness. I'll try not to get too spoilery here, but the random encounters like finding Grandma's spaceship.
I hate talking on this infernal thing too much. Just come on over.
Well, hello. Was hoping you'd drop by. The worst part of space travel is having to eat alone.
Or funky side quests like Hotel Paradiso would feel right at home in a game like Fallout. The important thing is, these moments are locked away on the peripheral, in side quests and activities. Therefore, the central tone of Starfield is not affected. Starfield, at its core, is a game about the beauty of space exploration. It's about the wonder and discovery, getting in your ship, taking off and exploring the near endless grandeur of outer space. One of Starfield's main characters, Sarah Morgan, the leader of Constellation, the main faction in the game, literally spells this out to you.
So, are you ready to get to work? See if exploration is the life you want to lead in this little universe of ours?
It's also something that has been relayed repeatedly by the man himself in the game's promotional material. Being the newest entry in Bethesda's IP trifecta, Starfield's tone is far more Elder Scrolls than Fallout, and like Elder Scrolls, Starfield relies a lot more on those quieter moments. You know, those moments where you're mining for resources on a barren moon, a million miles from civilization, staring up at the stars and just taking in the deafening silence of space. It rekindles those beautiful moments of adventuring across Skyrim's icy tundra. These such moments in Starfield would be ruined by the presence of a radio, and Bethesda obviously agrees. Alternatively, a radio would work a lot better in another Western RPG space game, The Outer Worlds, where the tone is a lot closer to Fallout. Obsidian arguably created its own spiritual successor to Fallout with The Outer Worlds, and its satirically on-the-nose take on futuristic late-stage capitalism absolutely fits. Starfield is a far cry from the hilariously depressing writing that Obsidian is so good at. That's not to say Starfield doesn't have some of that too. It of course has its own set of exploitative corporations, and if you actually dive into the lore, there's actually a great deal of dark and morbid stuff going on behind the scenes in Starfield. But as previously mentioned, this stuff is pushed far away from the tone of the main quest. To reiterate myself, Starfield is about wonder and discovery into the unknown. You could argue everything I've been talking about so far is totally subjective and your opinion might be different, but I'm here to prove you wrong. A radio wouldn't work in Starfield because on a functional level, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know if you've noticed, but in Starfield, you're going to be seeing a lot of this. More importantly, you're going to be hearing a lot of this.
go.
More than any other Bethesda game before it, Starfield is about using those musical cues in cinematic moments. The devs are really trying to convince you that you are on an epic adventure across the galaxy. Those takeoff and landing animations aren't just there to be pretty, it's all about making the game feel larger than life, convincing you that you are going into your own spaceship to travel from planet to planet, skipping from system to system. In reality, it's just setting up another loading screen to take you to a new biome and do it all again. And man, there is a lot of loading screens. I believe the presence of a radio would rob Starfield of this epic exploratory illusion it is trying so hard to create. The presence of light-hearted 80s synth-pop tunes would lessen the punch of initiating a grav jump to the other side of the settled systems. And let's be real here, because there are so many loading screens, it would be kinda jarring as the radio faded in and out after you watch these cutscenes where the epic score comes into fruition. Bethesda's focus on convincing the player of the transcendent space simulation means using every inch of the game to again create an illusion of infinite freedom, and the sound design is their primary tool. The purr of your ship's engines as it sits in dock. The roar of another ship flying overhead as it leaves the spaceport. It's all incredibly immersive, and Bethesda don't want anything distracting you from it. It's not just in Starfield's busier moments where sound is important too. The soundtrack means doing something as mundane as walking across a barren moon feels larger than life. Again, it goes back to that grand illusion, making the player feel tiny in a huge universe, but making that experience memorable. Even in the game's most central moments, the soundtrack is reacting to the player's actions. Take the temple sections where you unlock new powers. This sort of musical symphony plays as you complete the puzzle. In my view, Bethesda very purposely crafted these moments to be as much immersive audio experiences as they are visual. A radio would be the antithesis of these experiences. But of course, this is all just video essayist conjecture. It could very well be that a radio could be added in the next Starfield update. Or they just don't want a radio because Fallout already has one, thus removing everything that is unique about the Fallout radio in the first place. Maybe they don't want to pay the license fees for the music? One thing is for sure, you can be very positive that a radio will be modded in some shape or form, if not already. Okay, so in the process of editing, I have found an unofficial Starfield radio mod, and it looks pretty sweet. Overall, my feeling is there's no real need for a radio in Starfield, but your opinion may differ, so let me know. Do you want to see a radio in Starfield? Should Bethesda add one in? Or are you just happy downloading a mod? Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe because I'm going to be diving deep into Starfield in many more upcoming videos.